Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another author interview here on Tales from the Wandering Scribe. I'm your host, Gabriel Garcia. Many of you know me as the Wandering Scribe and the Wandering Quill. And joining us in their first ever author interview is a returning Wandering Scribe alumni who made their official debut in last month's Authors Roundtable. Now, this guest has been writing stories since childhood when they proudly printed out chapters from their family computer to share with relatives. A lifelong lover of sci-fi and fantasy, she is drawn to worlds that provide both escape and reflection, especially the deeper truths woven in dystopian tales. And beyond writing, they are passionate disability advocate and founder of Disenfranchised Writers Voices, a nonprofit dedicated to supporting low-income and disabled authors. When not immersed in building new worlds, she enjoys playing video games and spending time with their beloved pets. And you may see them pop in and out, and it wouldn't be a proper wandering scribe if an animal was not involved, viewers and listeners. So, without further ado, let's give a huge round of applause to a returning guest making their official debut in their own author interview, author Tasha He. Tasha, welcome back to the show.
Thanks. Happy to be back.
Awesome, Tasha. So excited to have you here on the show again and in your debut author interview. Now, Tasha, before we begin, as a little icebreaker question, what's a random fact about you that not a lot of people know?
That's a good question. Now, I'm a very open person, so I don't think there's anything that not many people know. But I guess an interesting fact is that I am CPR certified in both animals and people.
Ooh, that is really cool. Nice. Very, very nice. And since this is your debut author interview, without spoiling too much for our viewers and listeners who are now meeting you for possibly maybe the first time learning more about your writing, can you give us a little overview of some of the works you have written and published?
Yes, actually, that's what I was just looking for to see if it was in my reach. Sorry, if you see cats moving from the screen, they're in my lap. They need to move. Yes, okay, got it. This is the only book of mine that's currently available. And of course, it's going to go in and out because I have a background. It's Xenogenesis.
Ooh, I love that.
Yes, the artist is amazing. I love her very much. This is a sci-fi dystopian, post-apocalyptic, and it is a trilogy. So there will be 3 books, and I actually have 1 prequel planned as well, a prequel novella.
Nice. I love it. And I don't know why, but I'm getting like strong arcane vibes. I don't know why. I don't know why if it's like the artwork, but I'm getting strong arcane vibes from it.
I love Arcane. I actually didn't watch that until I think last year. And I was like, wow, I should have watched that a long time ago. But I think one of my primary inspirations was Altered Carbon, the TV show.
Oh, yes. Okay. I haven't seen that show in a very long time, but I do remember that. I remember some friends watched it.
It's so cool. I need to rewatch it because it's been many years. But yeah, I saw their tech and everything. And I was like, I want to borrow some of these ideas when I write my world. Awesome. And I definitely did.
All right, Tasha. All right. So before we go more in depth into your stories and your thought processes as an author, let's talk a little bit more about you. Now, from your bio, you have love stories that you have been writing stories since childhood, printing them out on computers, and sharing them with family and friends. I'm very curious. At what point in your life did you consider, or maybe not consider, but have that aha moment that this passion could be the start of your career?
I mean, I thought about it a lot, through the years growing up, but I kind of decided, for a long time, I don't want to do that. It just want to write. It's just for fun. It's kind of whatever. I think maybe, and this story, actually, I had been writing Xenogenesis as a love project. It wasn't meant to really be published. But then I eventually was like, you know what, I'm just gonna do it. If for no other reason, then I get to have like a pretty physical copy for myself. And if other people like it, that's great. If nobody else likes it, at least I love it.
Nice. All right. All right. And of course, you are a lover of sci-fi and
Yeah.
fantasy, which is actually the start of our first fan question that I have gotten. I've collected over the years a plethora of fan questions that people have messaged me on my website or DM me privately about some of the people I have on my show. And this first fan question asks, what types of fantasy and or sci-fi are really your bread and butter? Because those two genres have a lot of subgenres to them.
Yes, of course. Um, Now, are you saying fan questions like just general, or is somebody actually asking me questions? 'Cause that's interesting.
So a lot of these are anonymous. They don't, unfortunately, give out their names.
Well, I was just like, wow, I actually have fans somewhere. That's crazy. Yeah, for me, I think obviously like to see what my sci-fi bread and butter is, you just have to look at my first novel. I like dystopians. I like post-apocalyptics. I think I generally like things that are earthbound, but there are some books I like that have been like space operas. That they're not really like my super niche. Like if I see it, I'm gonna buy it and then I love it. I want society to be falling apart, basically, and when I read it. Fantasy, that one is like hard to pin down. I've never really thought about it. I think the only fantasy that I avoided for a long time was like high fantasy. I just wasn't really into like Lord of the Rings type stuff where it's like about elves and all that. And
Hmm.
I kind of like I'm trying to think back to my role play days, like what fantasy sites I would join. I think a lot of them would be like urban fantasy, or it's like modern day.
Mm.
It's modern day. We live in a city, but there's like werewolves and stuff.
All
So
right, I get it. I get it. There's actually, I remember one guest I had on the show. They said that they wanted to do an urban fantasy story, and their inspiration was the Netflix film Bright, where you had fantasy creatures in the modern age, and their story focused on police officers who hunted, criminals and killers in the day, but at night their targets were, vampires, goblins, people
yeah.
that ordinary humans won't go after. So what do? They turn into werewolves and hunt them down.
Oh, that's cool. It reminds me just a little bit, like not super a lot, but it reminds me just a tiny bit of like Supernatural, which is definitely like a fantasy that I really enjoy, is that show.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think a lot of people really stuck with Supernatural because it wasn't like anything we had seen before. I mean, it had angels, it had demons, it had
Yes.
mythology, it had so many different avenues and so many different plots that it could be a little overwhelming at times.
Yeah. Yes. Definitely like mythology is definitely like I used to be super obsessed, and angelology in particular. I actually considered at one point like going into study, like and actually getting a degree in like demonology and angelology and stuff.
Nice. Awesome. Very, very nice. So now let's fast forward a little bit. So, as you mentioned previously, that your debut novel was a project that you've been working on for many years. And at the time, you had no plans on publishing it. But as you were writing it and making that decision to publish, what was the goal you had for this story, as well as the promise you're making, not just to yourself as the author, but also fans of the genre?
That's hard. I'm definitely like a right for me kind of person, and like
Mm.
if somebody likes it to like come along, that's great. So it's hard to think of like the promise I made. I will say that I'm trying to find it here. It's easier for me to look at it. My what is this called? The thing that you put at the front of the book, your dedication, that word. My dedication is for like Kraken's original creator, because my I've talked about this a few times. My book comes from a play by post role play that I used to be a part of many years ago. It's
Ah,
inspired.
okay.
It's inspired. Yeah, like I took very few things from it, but mostly like the plot line of that I had with my character and like friends. So I kind of took that and then made a new world around it that's kind of similar but pretty different. Um, but I lost contact with Kraken's original writer. Luckily, before we lost contact, I asked her if I could adopt him as mine and just keep him because she quit writing. And so he's like mine now, but he wasn't always mine. And like my dedication is for her, and I hope that like one day she finds my book and is like, you can see like I finished our story, because that story never got finished.
Nice. All right. I like it. I like it. Now, you just brought up something that I actually was having a conversation with some friends of mine long time ago, and this is something that I've always been fascinated by: character adoption from one author
Yeah.
to another. And I was wondering if you can go a little bit more in depth of, how you as an author approach a character that's not your own by creation, but you develop them on your own, and how you approach storytelling to, balance the original idea of the
With yeah.
character, but your own voice.
With Kraken, I tried not to change him like as much as possible. I wanted him to be pretty like original to his true self. And I had a lot of like time writing with him as a, another character in the role play, which is very helpful when you're doing role play. You get to really spend a lot of time with somebody else's character, even if you're not controlling that character. But you still get to see how they react to things, what they say, how they think. And then, of course, like in play-by-post role play, you have to fill out like an application to even be approved. So he has an entire application that I saved that I still have. And basically, that's how I approached it, is like I took him into my mind. I thought of all of our threads, and like I was like, okay, how would he act and react, and how would he speak, and how would he be based on all of this? And the great thing is, I can't say that one. It's a spoiler. But I actually, before we lost each other, I got to ask her a few questions that are specific to the second book, not the first one. And I was like, hey, like, how would he feel about like this happening and like this stuff? So that helped a lot too. But yeah, I'm sure he's not like 100% like exactly how she would write him, but I did try my best.
Nice. All righty. All righty. Now let's get to another popular fan question that a lot of people love asking authors. They always keep sending me this, and there's a lot more. This fan question I always get from commenters as well as people who message me is, are you a night owl or a day writer?
I've always been more of like a night owl. Like usually it used to be like 11 p.m. to 2 to 3 a.m. Nowadays it's kind of like everywhere. I have like delayed sleep phase syndrome or whatever it's called. So my time clock moves constantly. So who knows what I am at any given time.
All right. And a follow-up to that, another one I always keep getting asked, are you a pantser or a planner?
I used to be 100% a pantser. I did NaNoWriMo every year. Shout out to that before it went crazy and went to, absolute shit. But the concept was fun. I'd stay up 24 hours trying to race to 50K in one day. Shout out to everybody who can actually do that. I got close. I never did it. But yeah, I am a planter now. I'm between both at this point in my life, where I mostly write by the seat of my pants, but I have some sort of idea and maybe like a very weak outline, but maybe it's not all filled in.
All right. I'm 100% the same way. I'm always, a planner first, but then I ultimately become a pantser. But then I kind of go back to, a mix of the two. I can't be a pantser too much because it destroys me and my brain goes into overdrive, which I absolutely despise. And going back to characters, this is another question that a lot of authors seem to get stumped by. In terms of characters in the story, Tasha, which character is your absolute favorite to write? And secondly, which character caused you the most stress in terms of, you know, bringing them to life?
That's so easy for me. I'm super
Okay.
biased towards Yin. She's the easiest to write, but she also is mine. She has always been mine for many, many years. She's like, I've had her since I was like kindergarten age. She's just developed into different forms as I've gotten older. But like I know her really well, so she's really, really easy for me. The hardest one would be the antagonist of Xenogenesis, Aya. they are very difficult for me to kind of hear when I'm writing, and like they're very like a closed off character. They don't have a lot of emotion that they show, and their thoughts are really guarded, and they're super analytical. So, and they're super political, which takes a lot more thought, because like politics, when you want to do like scheming politics, you have to really think about it and really thread that out before you do it. But yeah, they're very difficult. So fun fact, and this was true of book 2 as well. Aya's chapters were added in the second to last draft of Xenogenesis.
Okay.
They originally were not a point of view character, except I think I had 1 or 2 chapters. But then it got lengthened and they were added last. Book 2, same thing happened. I knew they were going to be a point of view character, but they were so difficult and took so much thought that I skipped their entire arc until I written the whole thing, and then I went back and added their story in.
Okay, I like it. I like it. And another question I love asking authors is, when you approach, characters in your story, Tasha, how do you make sure that they feel authentic to the world they exist in? I'm sure you've seen as a reader yourself that there are characters that feel genuine and human, and those that are just there to be an archetype.
So I don't really think about it, I guess. I'm one of those authors where like I hear them in my head and they tell me, and I see it like a movie, and whatever they do, I write it down. So if they're authentic, they did it themselves, basically. I don't intentionally usually steer them any which way. I'll think about sometimes I'll sit and think about does this seem like something the character would do? And especially for the ending, I'm like, could this be this kind of ending, or is the only path the one that I'm taking? So for book 2, I did that a lot. I was like, there's no way that this character could have this kind of ending. It's just not possible for who they are. So whether they come across as authentic or not, you'll have to ask readers. Some people say yes, some people say no. So, it's whoever reads it, their opinion at the time.
Nice. Well said, Tasha. Well said. Now, once you began, getting this book ready for publication, what was the initial response like and feedback like from friends and family who read, the earlier drafts and the earlier versions? Were they positive, negative, or a 50-50 split?
I don't believe in using friends and family as beta or alpha readers. That's not, they're not your intended audience. Your reader should always be your intended audience, your ideal reader, and mine are not, for sure. So I used alpha readers and beta readers that I found in the community that were sci-fi readers, sci-fi dystopian readers. The scary part of that is that I did a really good job, apparently, of finding my ideal audience in that moment, because they all loved it. I got this is perfect, don't change anything, basically, from 5 or 6 different readers who I had no relationship with. I didn't know them at all. So I'm like, this is great. But when we go into the real world, it's I can't do that. I can't make somebody who is not my ideal reader not buy the book. I can do my best to market it authentically and be honest, but people are going to do what people are going to do. And that's when I'm I'm going to start getting some lower ratings, because my book is just not for them, and I can't control that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I like how you mentioned, friends and family should not be, the target audience or the people that we give our works to. Because I've had a lot of people kind of say the opposite things, but I've been hearing this in the interwebs and, from other communities about, friends and family. But kind of in the same line, even if you didn't give your book to them to read, I imagine you may have shared them and told them that what you were working on. So in that retrospect, what was their reaction and feedback like?
Oh, none. My mom listens to me talk, but she doesn't really listen to what I say. So
Oh,
my family are not readers,
okay.
So it's kind of pointless to talk to them about my writing. I do have friends that are RPers or writers, and they know the characters pretty well. I will say I have a friend, Nari in this book belongs to somebody else as well. She belongs to a friend of mine that I do still talk to, who was a reader for both the first and the second book. But that was just because like I was like, here, look at this. I wrote your character in the book. But she was the expert on Nari, and that was it. I'm like, am I portraying your character authentically in this moment? But she loves it. She loves them both, of course, because she's like, it's the nostalgia for us. We both have that huge nostalgia.
Nice. And as you were, writing and getting everything ready, and then looking back on, the polished version before publication, do you feel that your promise was met to your future readers when looking back on it?
I think so. I mean, again, I guess it depends on who you ask and what their opinion is at the time. But I wrote the story like how I wanted it to be. It's my story. If you like it, that's great. That's it's wonderful. Let's chat. I'm happy to talk to people about this book. I'll talk until I'm blue in the face. And if it's not for them, that's fine too. I mean, if they feel it could be better, yeah, I'm sure it could be. Actually, I plan to rewrite Xenogenesis already because this writing is very old. I think one of my regrets is not doing another full rewrite when I finally decided to publish, because this is like, the writing is not as showing as I would like. There's just a bit more, it's a bit more telly, it's got a lot of adverbs and stuff. And I don't know, I just want to rewrite it in my current style.
That's fair. That makes sense. That makes sense. So now let's go into the next set of questions, what I like to call the reflective side of being an author. And as the two icebreaker questions, which a lot of authors dread answering, how have you dealt with in your career these two things that impact authors, among many things: writer's block and imposter syndrome?
Oh, yeah. Those are definitely some troublemakers, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
I actually didn't really have much writer's block with the second book. And then the first book, it was already written many years ago. But to be fair, it took me many, many years to actually write the first book. I have ADHD, so if I lose momentum, I'll put something down for months at a time. Or I think once I set it down for a whole year. I just didn't look at it at all. Kind of out of sight, out of mind. So I think basically just waiting it out for writer's block is what works for me. I'll come back to it later and read it and then suddenly be like, oh yeah, like this could be better because of this. Because you have distance from the manuscript at that point.
Right.
When you're really when you spend so much time with the manuscript and you're really in it, you can't objectively look at it and see the problems. That's why we need editors and stuff like that. Imposter syndrome, that's one you just got to deal with internally. I mean, I think we all feel that, and knowing that we all feel that helps normalize. This is normal. This is a normal feeling. You just have to work through it and realize we all feel the same way. So, I mean, you wrote it. It's there. How is that? How are you an imposter at that point?
Absolutely, absolutely. And kind of switching it up a bit, I'm now going to ask you a question that actually was first sent to me by an anonymous fan from a previous interview, but I love incorporating this because it's a very thought-provoking question. For you, Tasha, when did you feel confident in your abilities to say that you are an author as opposed to saying you are a writer? And when the person first sent that to me, it had me thinking like, what exactly is the difference? And how this person explained, and I'm so mad that they didn't give me their name because I wanted to reach out to them and pick their brain a little bit more. But this individual, this fan who sent me this question many years ago, sent this question because, in his opinion, a writer is a person who writes initially for fun, who may have no intention of publishing, but still wants to hone their craft. An author is an individual, a person who makes the decision to take their works and publish it, knowing full well there is no guarantee that work is going to be a success. And I would like to hear your thoughts on this discussion, this question.
I actually agree with them completely. I mean, there is a distinction. If you never publish, then you're not technically an author, you're a writer. an author is somebody who is published or intends to publish. So for me, I would say like aspiring author when Scene of Genesis was in draft, because I am aspiring to publish and to be an author, but I'm not yet one. But you know, sometimes that's a mouthful, and colloquially, you just say you're an author, and it's kind of whatever, you know. So
Absolutely.
I just agree with it, honestly.
It is. It is absolutely very, very true. And now let's go into probably one of the other biggest questions I love asking my guests on the show. And that is, what does it mean to be an author in the digital age? Now, this is a very loaded question, Tasha. So brace yourself. I want to give some context to this question. Being an author now in the digital age is not like what it was 20 years ago. I mean, social media has definitely changed the game and the internet. And if you're a small press, hybrid, or indie author, for a long time, you know, that was seen as a lesser form of publication because it wasn't part of the big five. It wasn't Macmillan, wasn't Del Rey, wasn't Tor, wasn't Forge, wasn't HarperCollins or any of those. But 20 something years later, you can't tell the difference between, you know, a book that is traditionally published and one that is indie unless you can actually see the logo of the publisher. That's probably the only distinction among many others. And again, social media is a good tool for authors to use to boost their, not so much their credibility, but to boost their viewership, to create a platform. But it is draining. It can be exhausting. And we do leave ourselves exposed to the darker sides of social media. In more recent years, we've seen the rise of AI witch hunts, where some people in the community are going after other authors, accusing them of using AI either because of certain grammatical tools like the hyphen, which people say, oh, that's AI. It's like, no, you can
Oh,
actually use the hyphen as a regular writing tool, but it's gotten so out of hand. So I guess ultimately for you, Tasha, how have you not, you know, gotten so down the rabbit hole, so to speak, of the social media side of being an author and having that healthy balance between, you know, knowing when to publish stuff on your socials, but also taking a step back when needed?
Yeah, it's actually the M dash, not the hyphen.
Right, M dash. Sorry.
Yes. Um, I will say that I definitely am down the rabbit hole, and so much as that I keep seeing people posting those stupid things where like this is a sign of AI. And then when I write it, I'm like, maybe I should not write this. But then I decide like I'm not gonna do that. Like I'm not giving up basic grammar and literacy just because it might sound like AI. Like AI sounds more like us. Like AI didn't just come out of a vacuum.
Mm.
It's trained on human works. Of course it sounds like people that write. I just don't get involved with all that. It's just, to me, it's just it's infuriating, it's annoying, and I will rant about it for hours if you get me started. So I just don't involve myself in that aspect. I ignore it. I write what I want to write. I publish. What, you know, that's it for me. And I don't have time for people that want their dopamine hit on social media by being aggressive.
Yes, very true. Very well said. And this kind of goes into the next question, which may get you into a spiral. So just letting you know, Tasha, it is discussion of, you know, as you just mentioned, as we just talked about briefly, AI in the industry. Now, I'll be the first to say AI is going to be in everything we do. We use it in spell check, we use it in Grammarly, we use it in everything else. And I think a lot of people tend to get that confused with the bigger issue that a lot of people have comments on, and that is generative AI. AI for like spell check and corrections, that's completely fine. That has always existed way
Yeah,
before, you know, generative AI like ChatGPT and Gemini. Generative AI is something that is an issue because it learns from us. The more prompts we put in it, it gets better and better. And there's been this discussion of individuals in the community who have used generative AI to write full-on novels, that it doesn't really do anything to, you know, the craft of writing, because you're not really an author at that point. you're a programmer. And many people have gone forward in saying for those that have created books using ChatGPT or Gemini, they should say not authored, program by so and so, because you're not an author at that point. And I guess kind of adding more context to this, what are sort of your thoughts on this? Again, this big debate on AI in the industry, because it's not going away anytime soon, but there has to be a healthy balance and moderation for us creatives to use it respectfully and as it was intended, but not see it as a end all be all money making scheme, because it's not. It's not going to be. People may try to, but in the end, it's not going to be, because readers are going to pick up. They're going to know what's written by a human and what's made by a computer.
Okay, that was a lot of words. I'm trying to work out the question in my brain. Basically, I will say I just don't get involved. I think people are focused on the wrong thing. I mean, witch hunting is just not going to do anything. You're not going to convince somebody that's already using AI to not use AI in general. People are very stubborn. I think what we should be focusing on is regulations, which would mean petitioning like our politicians, our representatives and stuff like that. We need to be focusing on the government level, not this like, oh, I'm going to like bully somebody on the internet because I can and feel like I'm making change. Like it's very performative in my opinion. Like, because you're right, it's not going anywhere. I don't think that we will ever get rid of it completely. So I think the best thing we can do is start regulating it and start forcing companies that are using like AI, like Anthropic and them, to try to find healthier ways, I guess, to use this machine if they want it so badly. Like I'm worried about like our environment and our water and all that. I think we need to legislate it and push them to improve and to stop harming the environment so much. And like these huge data centers are super like irritating. I think they're building one pretty close. I think I'm far enough away from it, but every time I drive by there, I'm like, oh, it's so ugly. And it's going to be so loud for the poor people that like live around it. So yeah, that's, I mean, for the most part, I stay away from the internet AI stuff. I don't agree with witch hunting at this point. The only way you can really tell is if it's a prompt that's left in, which people will disagree with that, but I believe that to be true, because who knows, is it AI or is it somebody that's just a beginner writer or a poor writer? You don't know.
That is true.
Yeah, and if they're using punctuation incorrectly, is that AI or is that person just inexperienced with that punctuation?
That is also very true. That is also very true. Now, here's another question, and this is another loaded question, so I'm gonna give context to it, Tasha. So I've been doing this show now for about 8 years now, and this show was born from the COVID lockdown years, and initially it was just podcast on Spotify and Anchor to just chat with friends in the writing community. But as time has gone on, I've had a lot more guests, I've had a lot more interaction, and I built this brand, so to speak, and this platform. And from all the authors that I've met on Instagram, a lot of them will say that they began their careers professionally, even though some of them have been writing, years before, but started taking writing more seriously during the lockdown years, has led to the discussion of, because of COVID, are we in a golden age of creativity? For a long time, people said that we are. Again, with the rise of technology and the industry constantly changing, some people say we're now entering more of like a silver and bronze age. So in your opinion, Tasha, from your own experiences, are we still in a golden age of writing or creativity, or have we shifted to a silver or bronze age?
I mean, I understand what they're saying. Like when you're stuck at home, people get bored and people are like their most creative when they're really bored because there's nothing else to do. But I would probably say that we are shifting toward a technological age just with everything that's going on. I mean, book sales are notably down across the board. People aren't reading as much. We have a literary crisis going on. Like, I would love for us to go back into like a educated and like well-read sort of age, but it doesn't seem like we're going that way.
No, it's not. And I've actually started talking with a lot of authors on the show about this question. And this now kind of segues into my favorite set of questions, the business side of being an author. But before we talk about, the business side for you and your book, I want to take this time to also talk about you beyond writing, because you also are a big advocate for disenfranchised writers, disabled writers in the community. And I would love to hear, how you brought your organization to fruition and what has it meant to you as well as the writers who are a part of this organization.
Yeah, so I started Disenfranchised Writers Voices because I noticed it's for low income and disabled writers. I noticed being low income and disabled myself, so I fit into both categories, but we do one or the other as well. There's not really a lot of support financially unless you go trad publishing, and that is just not the way that people want to go sometimes. I never once considered trad publishing. I just don't want to. It's not in my interest. But like, how do you afford the cost of editing and professional book covers and everything that you need to put out a professional product, especially with your debut? Like, that's your first impression out into the world. If you put something unedited or sloppy or like just weakly made, they say first impressions are everything. That's your first impression. So I was like, okay, so how do we address these financial barriers? I was like, okay, so I would like to make a nonprofit where we do like charitable grants, or we give resources, or maybe we host like events and classes that would be either low income or free, and people could like come and learn. And the charitable grants, they get access to those funds so that they could actually publish a professional looking book. And maybe from there, let's say it takes off and now they have the money to afford it from then on. So I'm trying to give people an opportunity. The only reason that Xenogenesis received its very pretty cover and it's very like professional editing was because at the time I finally got approved for disability, so I got back pay, and it was a lot of money. So otherwise it was unaffordable. I'm struggling with that right now. Luckily, I already have the cover for the second book. For editing, I've had to do a payment plan, and it's going to be hard, but I'm going to do it. So I was like, I'm going to make DWV. I found to do a nonprofit in Indiana, you have to have a president, a secretary, and a treasurer. So I found two other people that were willing to do it with me, and we registered. We did all the paperwork. We got tax exempt, and here we are. We're like a year old, I think now. I'd have to go check our date. Yes, we're still very young. We still like are trying to get word out there that we exist. Still trying to get like donations and like people to support. We did recently do like an itch bundle for Disability Pride Month, and we actually did hit goal, so that was very exciting. I'm happy that all those authors got paid some money for their book, and I'm happy their books got out there. We did a summit last year that was decently successful. We had professionals come and give an hour presentation throughout the day. I think it was like a 12-hour day for us, and I think that was very valuable. We'd like to do that again. I'm hoping that we'll be able to do more and more. We actually recently opened applications for a scholarship that was $500. We did not get any signups, which is unfortunate because we really want to give people money, but we're probably going to reopen it again soon for signups.
Nice. Absolutely. That is an amazing, amazing community that you have created, Tasha. And I think, that's the thing I love about, the indie community, that it is, to its core, it is a very collaborative, welcoming environment. And we're all in the same boat together because being, in the authors, especially, those who are, as you said, low income and or disabled, that do need that extra help because it's not cheap. It's not easy being a self-published author. And, finding a cover artist is expensive. Finding an editor is even more expensive. It is a lot. It is a lot. And we have to balance our finances. And for others, it's a lot more difficult. But I'm glad that there are organizations like yours, Tasha, that do exist, that do help these authors get their stories out, which I'll also be providing the link down below in the description of this video of viewers and listeners if you like to go and reach out, message Tasha directly so you can support her organization in any way, spread the word or anything like that. I'll be also doing the same thing on my newsletter. So just want to do a little plug in for that, Tasha. But
Yeah.
kind of now going from that, so in addition to being a part and founding this organization, how have you balanced the time between your duties as a writer for your stories, but also being a part of this organization and demonstrating your leadership skills with the various people that work with you and the authors who get the support from this organization you've created?
I've got a lot of time. I'm a full-time patient, as they say. I don't work. I'm on disability, or at least I do kind of work, but it's in-home pet sitting. So most of the time, my quote-unquote client is usually curled up and asleep, so I don't really have much to do. So I'm kind of chronically online in that way. I'm always available for people to reach out for either disenfranchised writer voices or like writing, because I just got a lot of time on my hands.
Nice. Very, very nice. And now looking at sort of like the business side and the marketing side, how have you been able to, market your books to your audience and in turn taking what you've learned and applied it to the writers and authors in your organization who may not know how to market their books or some of the tools or tricks to promote themselves on social media or get the word out there?
Okay, so on our Discord, we do have like a marketing category and like channel, and I actually post tips and everything in there. So those are available for anybody that wants to check them out. Also, I offer like myself to talk to somebody to give some ideas. I'm not a professional, I don't have like a degree or anything in marketing. I just really, really like it. And I like read a lot about it. So I'm a free resource, but I always disclaim that I'm not a professional resource. It'd be great if we could get like a professional marketer to do some classes. That would be so much fun. But yeah, so for me, I did the marketing thing pretty hardcore for a while, and when I do it, I'm very successful at it. But most of the time now, I'm just kind of like, I don't really care. So you don't see me marketing so much anymore. I might pick it back up when the second book is close to coming out, but I'm a really tired person, so most of the time you don't see me out there marketing as much as I should.
All right. Well, I think I may know two people who could probably help with in the marketing department. Some PAs who could help with your organization. I'll talk about them after the interview. But another question, and this is actually a fan question, another fan question that I always get authors to ask is, how do you balance your voice as an author while also understanding the genres that you're writing in? And the reason I ask this question is, as authors, we're always inspired by so many different things. As you mentioned earlier in the interview, you're inspired by certain subgenres of science fiction as well as certain aspects of, fantasy. You're more into like, the urban fantasy as opposed to like the high epic fantasy we see in like Lord of the Rings. And every one of those genres, the readers have certain expectations of how certain stories are supposed to go. They don't want a story that's exactly like something they've read before, but they don't want a story that's too new that's going to throw them off. And for us authors, we have to find that balancing act of honoring our voice and our authenticity, but being mindful of the genre that we're writing in and the expectations readers may expect from our books.
Right. Yeah. I think genre expectations are definitely something that somebody should be reading about before they write their book. Like this shouldn't be an afterthought. This should be like pre-research, is that I want to write in this genre, so I should be looking into what people are expecting, because when you don't adhere to that, you generally don't have the best reception. Sometimes, people that know the rules can bend them or break them. But if you don't know them, then you're just going to end up with a mess, in my opinion. It's like the whole debate with like the happily ever after or happy for now in romance right now, which is not my genre, so I do not get involved. But I mean, I've read so much or like watched so much sci-fi that for me, I think it's almost like intuitive what is expected, which is typical of like a voracious reader. You kind of get a subconscious feeling for how it should go. So
Mm,
I can't say that I've ever like sat down and really looked, which I probably should just because, but also again, I'm not writing to genre typically. I write for my story. It's just for me. And if you like it, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine too. But yeah, I definitely think it's important, especially if you intend to write genre fiction.
nice. Well said. Absolutely well said, Tasha. And this fan question, let me see if I can actually find. Oh, okay. Good news, Jinx. I was able to find a fan question from a viewer with a question directly to you.
Oh no.
So this person, I go by the name of Jinx, maybe a pseudonym, probably. Jinx would like to know who are the authors and or books that have really played a role in helping you craft your voice as an author.
Oh no, I'd have to like pull up a list. I got such a bad memory. But I really love like the first Sister trilogy. That was really good. And that's a space opera. So it's a little out of my wheelhouse, but it still was very dystopian. So it was great. There's this other one. Oh, I don't remember the series name, but I really liked it. It had something to do with like, I think like an asteroid hit the moon and knocked it off kilter. So like the world went crazy because it affected like the waves and everything. And so that was like a post-apocalyptic series, and I really like that one. It has like a very pretty cover, like on each book too. It has like I remember one of them had like this landscape, but they had like the moon, and it was like kind of twilight or like dark or something like that. But yeah, I don't remember the name unfortunately. But that was a good one, and that definitely was inspiring. Obviously, Altered Carbon inspired me a lot. What was another? I love like Sense Eight, I think it's called. That's a great show. What was another one? Whatever Happened to Monday was an awesome, like dystopian post-apocalyptic show. I watch a lot of shows. So, what's another one? I don't know if Sense Eight was there was another one that was similar to Sense Eight because I really love those. Oh, what's it called? What's it called? Mm, it's a very it's just became they just released the second movie, Code Eight. Code Eight is awesome. I love Code 8 and I like the second movie, even though they're low budget, so they're not the best. It's fun. And then Starset, the music is actually pretty inspiring for me too, because it's literally like sci-fi in like space, and they have their own books as well, which I've really enjoyed. So the band Starset is pretty inspiring with their works. And I like I could keep going forever. They're going to keep coming to me, like Across the Nightingale Floor, like that series is more fantasy, but I think it's fantasy, but I like it a lot. So my inspiration just comes from everywhere, honestly.
Nice. Very, very nice. And we're almost near the end of this amazing interview, Tasha. So I'm actually going to combine a few questions together. And this one I'm actually going to call the rapid fire round. So these are some rapid fire fan questions that I've gotten over the years that I'm going to ask you in speed succession. Some of these questions have some authors, so just fair warning. So we're going to start with the first question. Of the five senses, which is the most difficult for an author to describe?
For me, I don't know if it's like difficult to describe, but it's the one that I ignore the most is taste.
Ooh, taste is another one. Taste is one that has been mentioned numerous times. Here is the second rapid fire fan question. In your opinion, what makes a story's atmosphere truly gripping?
Oh, that's so hard. I think it's just how well you can paint that picture and like your word choices and just making you really feel that moment with words, which is such a challenge and such a skill.
All righty, all righty. Third question. If you were given an unlimited budget to adapt your book into any of these mediums, which would you choose? A
I
trilogy, a limited series with any actors of your choice, or a full audiobook production with the best narrators in the industry?
Oh no, don't make me choose. Because I would immediately say I want a graphic novel. Which
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Nice.
but a full cast audiobook has been my dream with like the custom music and everybody has like a voice. Oh, that was what was the Alumni Files was another series that was inspiring, and they have the full cast and you feel like you're listening to a movie without seeing it. I love that. And then like limited series, there are definitely actors. I have like at least one post on my Instagram where I was like, this is the actors I would choose, but they're all kind of aging out. So it would have to be like animated, which I think is preferential to me anyways, is that, they could voice act and I could just have like my animated series. But I don't know, between the three, I don't know which one I'd choose.
Yeah, this is a very, very tough one. Absolutely. Here's the next one. If your main characters had a theme song, what theme song would they have?
Depends. I have playlists for all of my characters and each book and story. So it would depend on what you mean. Like what specific situation? Is it two characters? Is it the one character? But like which book? I have
Okay,
a lot of songs.
let's start with first book, main character. I'll give you a scene to maybe help. They're walking down the street, and it's like, you know, it's like their moment. Like they are like the top dog. They are like strutting their stuff.
Hmm. I'm looking up the name right now. I think it's called Heroes by Zaid. Zaid something.
Zayd
Zaid
Wolf?
Wolf. I was right.
Yes.
Yes. I like Heroes a lot. That's a great
Oh,
one
that's a
for the
good
first book.
one.
Yeah. There was like a playlist that I found that in. There's another one by Zayd Wolf that I really, really liked, and I listen to it now and again. But we'll definitely go with Heroes for now.
All right. Very, very nice. And now the last rapid fire before I get into the final question. Oh, goodness gracious. Why this question? Why this last one for the rapid fire? Okay. Which do you think is probably the most difficult thing for an author to do? And a lot of authors have been stumped by this. Knowing when to stop editing or knowing when to stop writing. I know a lot of people on the show have said that these are kind of the same thing, but I will just going to break down this distinction. For knowing when to stop editing is you're already written the story, but you keep
Right.
editing so many things. Knowing when to stop writing, you're keep writing everything. Like you have the world in your head and you're just writing pretty much a big, big book that could be divided into numerous volumes.
So for me with this past book, I think actually for both of my books, it was knowing when to stop editing. Because it's never going to be perfect. There's always going to be something you could change or make better. There's no such thing as perfect. I would honestly argue that authors have trouble with both, depending on the author, because you're right. Like we have this whole world in our head, but the idea is that you can't show 100% of your world into a book. It would just be way too long, and the pacing would drag, and it would be just awful to go through, even though you want to. That is why I'm writing a compendium to go with mine.
Nice. Very, very nice. And finally, Tasha, we arrive at the final question of this amazing author interview. With everything we've talked about in this episode, what ultimately do you hope readers will take away from your book, from your journey, and ultimately, what would be your word of wisdom to the next generation of writers watching this interview or listening to this interview?
So for authors, I would say that like don't accept mediocre. Just, you can think that you're trapped and you can't afford the editing or whatever, but there's always an option. I'm pretty resourceful. I used to be in social work for a while, so I know how to find things. So, I mean, there are some resources out there. Disenfranchised Writers Voices is now a resource that's out there, but there are others. There are other like scholarships that come around that I see that give much higher payouts at this time than I do. Like I saw one recently that was like 50 grand split between like 10 people, I think. So there's that. You can do in-kind work. You know, you can, if you have a skill, and everybody has some kind of skill, you can trade it, which is what I did for Xenogenesis for editing. I did PA work to get my book edited and did in-kind hours. It's just, there's a way. There's always a way. It's hard, but like if you want to be successful, you have to actually put in the work and you have to look. You know, you can't throw your hands up and just give up. As for readers and what I would want them to take away from my book, that's hard. It's hard because there's so much, but I would hope that they would see like the rebellion, like the standing up for what's right, the hope, stuff like that. But also that like people aren't perfect. My characters are not perfect. They have flaws. They may not always do something you agree with. And like that's, to me, is a full authentic character, because people are not perfect.
Absolutely. Beautifully said, Tasha, and a wonderful ending to this incredible author interview here on Tales from the Wandering Scribe. Want to give a huge thank you to our guest, Tasha, for making her second appearance on the channel and her first appearance in her author interview. Now, Tasha, where can people find you on social media if they want to reach out and connect, as well as learn more about Disenfranchised Writers Voices?
So for DWV, you can find us at disenfranchisedwritersvoices.org. And I believe our Discord is also like on our website. I have to check and make sure that happened, but I'm pretty sure it did. But also for me, you can find me primarily on Instagram at he_the_author.
Nice. I will link all that down below in the description of this video. And if you'd like to see Tasha's first appearance on the channel, I will link the roundtable part 2, where we talked about a lot of great many things. And if you'd like to see Tasha back on a show for a third appearance and possibly another roundtable, maybe members of the Disenfranchised Writers Voices talking about more of the organization and stuff like that, you know what you have to do. Like this video, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, everybody, this has been the Wandering Scribe and the Wandering Quill, signing out. Wish you all a wonderful day wherever you are in the world. Happy Thursday, everybody, and we'll see you all in the next episode coming out on Friday. Take care. Have a wonderful day.